Whilst the Division 2's community is split on the best build, best playstyle and favourite content, there's one thing that every player has in common. They all, in some way, rely on aiming ability. The aiming applications can be obvious, for instance pointing and shooting a gun as accurately as possible, but it also affects the game far beyond that. Have you ever wondered how someone is more effective than you with a foam or fire chem, or how sniper turret works for some players but not others? Believe it or not, these things mostly fall down to aim. In this video, I'll cover absolutely everything you need to start improving your aim, whether you just want to have a better time in the open world or whether you're chasing Regulus world records. Hopefully you'll learn something by the end. Before we get into the tips, I want to preface this video by saying that this is in no means an ego trip. I'm not the best aimer, but I would like to think that I'm above average, and I've done a lot of research into how to improve, which I think you'll all greatly benefit from. If you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe, and if you have any questions, drop them in the comments. Let's get into it. Before we can cover off actual methods to improve aim, we need to review some core elements of what everyone refers to as good aim, and a methodology that we'll adopt whilst trying to improve. Good aim is a subjective blanket statement which actually can translate to a number of different meanings. At its core, aim can be broken down into three scenarios: tracking, flicking, and switching. Tracking is the ability to follow a target, so when you're shooting with an assault rifle, this is the type of aim you're utilising for the most part. Flicking is the ability to snap onto a target. This is the type of aim you'll see in most Regulus builds. You're not slowly following a target, you're quickly snapping and clicking that head. Switching, then, should be fairly self-explanatory. This is the ability to switch target to target, which encapsulates a combination of flicking and tracking. This will be present in basically any engagement with any build. Now that we know aiming scenarios, let's look at a methodology to use when trying to improve in all three of those disciplines. The methodology we're going to use is simple: accuracy first. To expand more, this doesn't mean accuracy above anything or any other variation. You should be continuously challenging yourself. What this means is that you should train accuracy primarily, and speed should naturally follow as you get more comfortable. So why do we do it this way round? Can I not train speed and accuracy will follow? Sure, if you train anything, you're likely going to improve at both. But what will happen is you'll hit a ceiling much faster with training speed than you would accuracy, and you'll build bad habits which will take a lot of work to reverse. At its core, good aim is just the ability to recite muscle memory and exercise control over muscles in a fine and timely manner. When we train aim, all we're doing is building positive muscle memory that we can later recite, as well as improving our fine control over our muscles. So let's imagine two people. One has built muscle memory to perfectly line their gun up over a head in half a second, and the other's built muscle memory to point in a target's general direction and spam in a quarter of a second. Which do you think is going to win the engagement? Exactly, it's the accuracy guy. If we're going to build muscle memory, let's do it correctly from the get-go. Before we move on to the meat and bones of aiming in Division, I'm just going to highlight another super important aspect of aiming: crosshair placement. You should be defaulting to head level and anticipating enemies. At the highest level, this will enable you to click the trigger instead of having to do a mad scramble to get your shot on target, as the shot will already be on target. This anticipatory aiming is what you'll see when speedrunners snipe, specifically during Iron Horse Boss 4. It allows for almost 100% consistency of even the hardest shots, since you literally reduce those hard shots to pressing the trigger on time. With methodology out of the way, the first thing I want to cover off is the most obvious, but one that's overlooked by so many people. This is settings. All aiming starts here. So first let's look at sensitivity and its effect. If you have 2 meters desk space but play on max sensitivity, you're missing out on an opportunity to vastly improve your accuracy overnight. Likewise, if you have 10 centimeters desk space but decide to play on a super low sensitivity, your aiming is going to be very slow and lack flow. The important thing here is finding what's right for you, and that's something I can't really teach. What I can teach, however, is that you should be actively tweaking settings to find what's absolutely perfect for you. Lower sensitivity is superior for accuracy, but you don't want to draw away from your speed too much, so you need to find the sweet spot. This is one of those things where you can't just copy and paste a YouTube video and expect results. Another thing worth noting is that after you change your settings, you should play for a period of time, I'd say 15 minutes minimum, before adjusting them again. Us humans are creatures of habit, and basically any change will feel weird at first. What you need to learn to work out is whether what's a hindrance now may be a help in the future, which will come with time. So obviously sensitivity is important, but there's one other thing that's even more overlooked, and that would be field of view, or FOV for short. FOV in the Division is controlled via two separate settings, one for hipfire, one for ADS. For some reason, the Division community more than any other community just defaults to maxing both of these options out without any thought as to how they'll affect gameplay. So how does it? To break it down to the core basics, FOV decides how big things appear on the screen. The higher the FOV, the smaller things appear on screen to fit that extra FOV. Why is this important though? This is important because enemies, and most specifically their heads, grow and shrink as you increase or decrease the FOV value. This means that lower FOV values will show enemies at longer ranges seemingly closer and bigger, giving you the ability to better detect and fine-tune aim for them. The downside here, and where you need to find balance, comes from the fact that you obviously see less in your surroundings with a lower FOV, which can affect your situational awareness and game sense. Similar to sensitivity and DPI, I'm going to struggle to tell you exactly what's right for you, but the general rule is the same. You should be trying to keep this setting as low as possible whilst maintaining your ability to identify targets in your peripheral vision. Finally, check that your mouse or controller settings are right for you. DPI and sensitivity obviously have a huge interdependency, and the other key thing to adjust is mouse sensor position. If you notice that you often hold your mouse at an angle, you should adjust accordingly to make aiming feel much more natural. There's a great video made by Kovacs on exactly this topic, which I've linked in the description if you want to take a look. So we've covered off the key settings, now let's look at how we can actually train and improve our aim. I'm going to cover this off in two parts, in-game and outside of the game, which I've timestamped. Firstly, let's look at training in-game. There are 1,000,001 ways to skin a cat with this, but here are my recommendations. I'll break this down into 3 sections, beginner, intermediate and advanced. You'll have to be the judge of which you should take on, but if you can't work out which is best suited to you, just start from beginner and move up. Firstly, the beginner drill. Put on any 6 red build you have. This isn't about dealing max damage, so don't get hung up on the build for too long. What is critically important, however, is that you have a semi-auto rifle on. My recommendation would be the classic M1A, but things like the 1886 work too. What you unequivocally can't have is a weapon that has bad accuracy. If you line your shot up correctly, you want that bullet to land for this drill. What you're going to do now is put your favourite mission on normal difficulty, and you're going to slowly move through that mission, aiming to headshot kill every single enemy. Remember that we're practicing accuracy first. Do not try to speedrun the mission, you're just looking to maximise the percentage of your kills which are headshot kills. So why do we do this on normal, not hard, challenging or heroic? The reason we pick normal is that this is the most punishing difficulty to miss on, because if you accidentally hit a body shot, that enemy will nearly certainly die in one shot, meaning it will negatively affect your stats in the end of mission report. And since I mentioned the end of mission report, that's going to be our method of measuring performance. Following every run of the mission, you should carefully check the stats page. What you're looking for here is the split between team kills and headshot kills. If you want to go one step further, you can even work out your headshot kill percentage. Just do headshot kills divided by team kills and then multiply that whole thing by 100%. You can also track accuracy here. Since you're prioritizing that over speed, it should be a pretty useful metric. But that said, tracking it is not necessary, and the primary focus of this task is just to get used to popping heads. So that's our beginner drill. You can do it as much as you'd like, but I'd recommend training it in small quantities often. What I mean by that is it's much better to do 15 minutes a day for a week than it is to do nothing for the first 6 days, then 3 hours on the 7th. Next up, intermediate. For this one, we're going to move up to heroic difficulty and do something very similar to the first with some small tweaks. The first tweak is that we're going to make sure our 6 red build is a headshot build. This will serve a couple of purposes, but the biggest is that if you don't hit headshots, you're going to do nearly no damage and have a really hard time killing stuff. This means we're in effect forcing ourselves to land headshots or we'll face the ultimate penalty, death. I'd also suggest avoiding Headhunter for this challenge as it will make your aim purely flicking. Ideally, we want to be practicing all elements. So once you've got the build, just head through the mission, prioritizing accuracy and try to land as many headshot kills as possible. At the end, make sure to review your end of mission screen and think about where you could have done better. Keep this fresh by switching up the mission. There is no best faction or mission to train aim, and really it all just comes down to practicing in a broad range of scenarios. So now, we've drilled at a beginner and intermediate level. Time to move to advanced. My suggestion here is that you now move into the realm of legendary, and we'll have 2 elements to grind out and different activities. The first is that I would strongly suggest practicing solo legendary in a striker's battle geared build. This will do very little for flicking, but is really the best possible practice for tracking and switching. If you don't track and switch well, you will die, so it can be brutal. But ultimately this will make you a much better aimer almost immediately. If you need a run through of how solo legendary goes down, I've linked a tutorial in the description. The next advanced drill will be journeying into the world of Pistol Headhunter. This is excellent practice, but it does focus almost solely on flicking. The build for that looks a bit like this, although there's a lot of room for flexibility. Run your favourite variant and just try to steamroll content. The one thing I'd say about this build is make sure there isn't loads of survivability on it. The purpose of this is to aim or die, so if you cheat that by wearing a super tanky build, you're ultimately only cheating your own progression. Remember that even with this build, you should be prioritising accuracy. But as this is an advanced drill, you should already have a good base level of speed and accuracy to work with. If you find yourself dying on repeat trying this drill, take a step back and grind some of the more beginner/intermediate level stuff. It's more than possible that you just don't have the speed and accuracy required to make the most of this drill yet, which is fine. If you want to take this even one step further, you can try pistol headhunting without a shield. This is the ultimate way to train speed, but just remember that you should never compromise accuracy. If you find yourself spamming meaninglessly, put the shield back on and practice properly. If you choose to run Regulus for this, the end of mission screen is going to be a bit inaccurate as the explosion will deal damage and get kills, pulling away from your headshot kill metric. That said, accuracy is a good thing to review here. The higher, the better. So that about wraps up what I'd recommend doing in-game to train your accuracy. But what if you really want to accelerate that progress and move to the next level? Enter aim trainers. Now, this is not a sales pitch like many videos you'll see suggesting aim trainers are. What this is something that objectively improved my aiming in just 2 to 3 months. You don't need loads of time, I did 15 minutes a day and the improvements were huge. I went from being an average aimer to being able to take world records which were aim reliant. The aim trainer I used is AimLab. It's free on Steam and enables focused training across a range of scenarios, both user created and native to the program. I could rant for a very long time about AimLab, but really you just need to find a routine that you find enjoyable and practice it consistently for a period of time. Note that this will not make you an aim god overnight, but if you keep it consistent, like going to the gym or similar, you'll see results as time moves on. I've linked the playlist I used most over the period I was aim training consistently in the description. It's great and covers off basically everything used in Division when it comes to aiming. The results are so clear for me that I still use this playlist to warm up when I'm doing aim-intensive stuff in game, like legendary speedruns. Whilst this does seem boring, you'll likely find that you actually enjoy your time on AimLab. Competing with your PBs and friends is really good fun, and the ranked playlist can be great to really measure progress over time. There's also incredibly smart AI tied to AimLab which will give you tips to improve after each round. Feel free to add me on Steam if you want some scores to compete with too. So that about wraps it up for aim. If you have any questions or tricks and tips that helped you improve your aim, stick them in the comments below. Good luck out there, and remember that good aim is a marathon, not a sprint. Keep your head up, enjoy it, and the rewards will be plentiful. If you enjoyed, please like, comment and subscribe for more similar Division 2 guides. Thanks for watching.